Okay, so we'll get it started with audio is not clear. And somebody else also confirm. Is my audio okay for others? Okay. Okay, audio is little low. Let me try to come closer to the mic. Let's start off with a small invocation prayer. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. नमा ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिमित्रपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरं हरि ओं तत्सत् Hare Krishna. So I'm welcoming you all to this day 4 session. Gita Mahatmya verse 4 is what we are going to see today. Before that, I'll just give a small recap from yesterday's session. In yesterday's session, in the verse 3 of Gita Mahatmya, we saw how by even studying once Srimad Bhagavad Gita, it is like cleansing our material life. So Ganges is so pure. If somebody takes bath in Ganges, he is all purified. So similarly, when we take bath in the river of Bhagavad Gita, so we are going to get purified completely of our material life. So material life means the samsara sagara. It's an ocean of repeated cycle of birth and death. So we saw the different problems or the challenges in our material life, namely Janma, Mrityu, Jara and Vyadi. Bhagavad Gita says Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, Dukkha, Dosha and Darshana. So basically, these are the real problems in our material life. So why we are facing up with these challenges? Somebody is saying not audible. Is that the case for everyone?
Yes, Prabhuji, little low volume.
Little low volume. Okay, right? Yeah. Fine. So maybe you can try from your end as well if there is a problem on your end. Okay, so that's what we saw in the yesterday session. Let's continue from the verse number 4 today. As usual, let me share my screen. Okay, so able to see my screen today?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Okay, so as always, we will take the blessings of Shri Radha Krishna, pray to their lotus feet so that we are able to understand what we are going to see from today's verse and also put things into practice in our day-to-day life. So we'll just pray to this Lordship by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Okay, so this is the Gita Mahatmya course, day 4. We'll straight away jump into the verse for today. Let me recite the verse and you all can recite being on mute. Gita Sugita Kartavya, Gita Sugita Kartavya, Kim Anyai Shastra Vistaraihi, Kim Anyai Shastra Vistaraihi, Ya Swayam Padmanabhasya, Ya Swayam Padmanabhasya, Mukhapadmad Vinisrita, Mukhapadmad Vinishrita, Gita Sugita Kartavya, Kim Anyai Shastra Vistaraihi, Ya Swayam Padmanabhasya, Mukhapadmad Vinishrita. Request one of you to please read the translation. You can unmute.
May I, Prabhuji?
Yes, sir.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. This Gita, which has come out of the lotus-like... Prabhuji, I'm not able to see the...
Oh, sir, 1 second.
Yeah, I got it. This Gita, which has come out of the lotus-like face of the Lord, he who has the lotus in his navel, and which is so melodious, should be studied. There is no need to study any other scripture in detail. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you, Mataji. So, here the Lord's face is compared to lotus-like face, Padmanabhasya. So that is the exact Sanskrit word here. And this Bhagavad Gita has come straight from the lotus mouth of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Right? So that's why it is called Bhagavad Gita. And this Bhagavad Gita is so melodious. So there are 700 verses. There are certain verses which you can literally sing, like any kirtan. So you'd be able to sing in very nice melodious raga or tunes, right? So this Bhagavad Gita should be studied. So this is the statement of Adi Sankaracharya. There is no need to study any other scriptures in detail. So this is such an emphatic statement, isn't it? Coming from Sripad Adi Sankaracharya. Because there are so many Vedic literatures. There are n number of scriptures, most of which are authored by Srila Vyasadeva. So who is the literary incarnation of the Supreme Lord Krishna. So why in particular it is being recommended that one should read only Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So which means that there is no necessity for us to study other Vedic scriptures. So what are the reasons behind this? So we are going to see in today's class. What is so special about Bhagavad Gita that Sripad Adi Sankaracharya is recommending us to read only Bhagavad Gita? Right. So that is the topic for today. Get into the next slide. So to understand this, so we all have taken this wonderful human form of body, right? So yesterday we saw how valuable it is for someone to get a human body. It is mentioned in the scriptures, Labdha Sudurlabhamidav Bahusambhavan. So it is very, very rare that somebody can get a human form of body. There are 84 lakh species. We could have been born in any of those 84 lakh species other than the human form. But by Lord's mercy and by our previous good actions, we all have got this human form of body. Especially when somebody has taken birth as a human being, we are indebted to various categories of people. Broadly, the scripture is giving 5 categories of people to whom we are indebted. So, why I am talking about this, you all will come to know, because this has some relation to reading scriptures, right? So, we are indebted to the devas. So, how many devas are there? They are countless. It is mentioned that there are 33 crore devatas, right? So, why we are indebted to devatas? Because for our material body to function, for this nature to function, we require the help and service of the devatas. So we know that even if we have a little bit of information from the Hindu scriptures, we know that these devatas, like the Indra, Chandra, Varuna, Vayu, Surya, so there are so many prominent devatas. Apart from that, there are many upadevatas as well. So these basically control this material world. For instance, I am able to speak. So this power of speech is given by one devata. I am able to breathe in and breathe out. So this is all due to the mercy of devatas, right? So Varuna is in charge for water. Agni is in charge of fire. So if you have to digest the food which we are eating, so we require the help of digestive power, which is in turn controlled by Agni, right? So in this way, simplistically saying, for our material body to function, we need the help of devatas. So that's why we are indebted to all these devatas. So how we can repay back to the devatas? By giving sacrificial oblations, by thanking them in so many ways. So these are all recommended in the Vedic scriptures. We are indebted to the great rishis. Who are these rishis? Rishis are those who have given us these Vedic scriptures. Vyasadeva was a rishi. His father Parasara Muni, he was a rishi. He also composed certain Puranas. So like that, there are so many rishis for to whom we are all indebted to. Right? We are indebted to our ancestors. So in the modern times, if you see, even taking care of one's own parent is not a great priority, right? So just imagine we have got this wonderful human form of body. We have been brought up so nicely by our parents, by our grandparents. Aren't we indebted to them? Definitely we are indebted, right? So that's why in the Vedic scriptures, there are specific instructions given as to how we can repay back our ancestors. First and foremost, when one's parents or grandparents are alive, we need to take care of their necessities nicely. Just think back how we were brought up by our parents, how nicely they took care of us. So they did all kind of menial services to take care of our bodily necessities. Right? So aren't we indebted to our parents? Right? So while our parents are living, whether they are valid or invalid, whether they are healthy or diseased, in whatever condition they may be, we need to give good care of them. So since they are invalidated, we shouldn't be sending them to old age home because they are no longer of any use to us. So that is completely wrong. We are actually going to incur sinful reaction for that act. right? So we need to give utmost importance to our parents and our ancestors. And once our parents or ancestors leave this material world, we are also indebted to give them appropriate oblations. So that is all called Shraddha ceremony, right? So annually, a son is supposed to perform Shraddha ceremony for his ancestors. So these are all recommended in the scriptures. We are also indebted to other human beings. You take your own life. So you were helped by your teachers, you were helped by your friends, your other relatives, your neighbors. Huh? So we got so many things from so many people, right? So that's why the scripture says we are all indebted to other human beings as well. And in general, we are indebted to all living beings, not just human beings, right? So every day we drink milk. Where does the milk come from? It comes from cows. So which means we are indebted to our Gomata. Likewise, so even to a very little microorganism which lives within your body, we are indebted to them as well. They say that, especially when we fall ill, they give some antibiotics. But along with antibiotics, they also give probiotics, which means those bacteria which are very much required for having a healthy body. Right? So there are many microorganisms within our body which are helping us. So like that, there are so many other living beings which are actually helping us. If you look into the olden Vedic system, if you have been witnessing from your father or forefathers, from their everyday activity, you can easily find it out. So as soon as they offer Naivedyam to the Lordship, they go and keep handful of rice or oblations to the crows, right? So they invite the crows and they give prasadam to the crows. So like that, they offer prasadam to Gomata, cows. So like that, we are all indebted to so many other living entities as well. So how we will come to know that we are all indebted to these categories of people? Only when we study the scriptures. So that's why rishis are playing a very crucial role. If we don't have scriptural knowledge, we won't even know that we all are indebted to these categories of people. Right? So that's why point number 2 is very important. We need to have proper scriptural understanding. The problem in this modern day world in Kali Yuga is that there is no place where a student is getting an opportunity to learn scriptures. In the schools, they don't teach Vedic scriptures, right? So they only give material education. How somebody can learn science, they can learn biology, they can learn computer science, so that they can be very successful in materialistic life. They can earn like anything. So that is the basic fundamental principle of modern day school education. The olden Gurukul system is gone. It is no longer existent, right? So where else can we get the scriptural knowledge other than from the great Mahatmas or Rishis? So Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON, is one such Mahatma who gave this wonderful knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. So if you understand Bhagavad Gita, then you will be able to pay back to all these categories of people. Bhagavad Gita gives wonderful knowledge. How you need to pay back to the Devatas, to the Rishis, to the ancestors, to other human beings, to other living entities, right? So these information are given in Bhagavad Gita. So that's why Shankaracharya is giving so much of emphasis that one needs to understand and live in accordance to Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So learning are understanding Bhagavad Gita and following as per the principles given in Bhagavad Gita is enough, is good enough. Right? So that's about the five kinds of depths. And what is the effect of studying Bhagavad Gita? One becomes a Dvija. Now, what does this word Dvija mean? Right? So Dvija in essence means twice born. We all are born once to our mother and father. So what is that second time birth that we are talking about here? And if you look here, so you can find that there is chicken and it has laid eggs, and the egg is broken, and the baby chicken it comes out, right? So what is the significance of this to Dvija? So when the baby is inside the egg, according to its knowledge, its consciousness, whatever it can find within that egg, so that is the world for the baby, right? So it doesn't have any knowledge about the world which is outside of the egg. So this material world is compared to Brahmanda. Anda means what? Egg. So this material world, or it is called universal egg. So we are all in this material world, in this universal egg. Like this baby chicken, we all think that this material world is everything. I am born in Chennai. I am working in so and so company. My house is in so and so place. This is my world. I don't have any vision beyond this. Why? Because we are confined to this universal egg. We don't think beyond this universal egg. The moment when the egg is hatched and the baby comes out, it has the wonderful view of the world outside this egg. Similarly, when we all get the scriptural knowledge, the knowledge from Bhagavad Gita, our eyes are open to completely a new world altogether. And what is that world? That world is beyond this material world. That is what we call as the spiritual world. Right? So the recommendation from the Shastra is that we all should be twice born. It is not enough if we only get a human form of life. So that is not the end of it. In fact, once we get a human form of life, we need to be enlightened by the scriptural knowledge of Bhagavad Gita so that we can think beyond this Brahmanda. Right? So hope the analogy is clear here. That's why the Brahmanas, they are called Dvija. So Dvija means twice born. A Brahmana is supposed to be learned in scriptures. So that's why when a person is born as a Brahmana, he is not called as a Brahmana, like I was explaining in yesterday's class. He needs to be enlightened by his spiritual master. When a spiritual master accepts him as a disciple and enlightens him with Vedic knowledge, so that's when a Brahmana really becomes twice born. He becomes a Dvija. Otherwise, he is only a Brahmana by birth. Right? So these are some of the things which are the effect of studying Bhagavad Gita. Right? So now when it comes to Shastra, so why is it that Bhagavad Gita is given so much emphasis? So this block diagram, it gives a view of what all comprises of the Vedic scriptures. Right? So you have the Vedas comprising of the Rig, Yajur, Sama and Atharvana, the four prominent Vedas. And then you have the Puranas. I was explaining yesterday how there are 18 Puranas prominently. What are those 18 Puranas? The Puranas in the mode of Sattva Guna, Rajoguna and Tamoguna. Right? So Srimad Bhagavatam is one of the prominent Puranas, and you have Vishnu Purana, Padma Purana, so many other Puranas as well. And then you have 108 Upanishads. I also discussed how Bhagavad Gita can be called as Gita Upanishad, right? And we also have Itihasas, the Ramayana and Mahabharata. So broadly speaking, these are the different scriptures, and the Vedic scriptures can be compared to ocean. All these scriptures put together, probably they are around several million verses. So practically speaking, we won't be able to study all the scriptures in our lifetime. Right? So we all have probably 70, 80 or 90 years of age. In that limited age, we cannot study so many scriptures, leave alone understanding them and practicing them. That's why Adi Shankaracharya says it is enough if you study Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So that is equivalent to studying all the Vedic scriptures, because Srimad Bhagavad Gita is nothing but Vedanta. That's the essence of all Vedas, right? So it's like, you have a sugar cane. So somebody may bite the sugar cane, chew it himself, and enjoy the sugar cane, or somebody else may put it in the sugar cane machine, crush it nicely, and get a juice out of the sugar cane. So which would be more tastier or easier? Sugar cane juice, right? So like that, Bhagavad Gita is like an essence of all the Vedic scriptures. So when somebody understands Bhagavad Gita, it is like the person has understood the entire Vedic scriptures. And what are the different subject matters which are discussed in Bhagavad Gita? So I'll just give you a brief glimpse of it. It's an elaborate topic, but I am just going to give short synopsis about this. The first subject matter that is being given in Bhagavad Gita is information about Jiva. Right? So Jiva or Jivatma are all the living entities. So what is the nature of Jiva? What is Jiva comprised of? Right? So that's where the knowledge on the spirit soul is being given in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita also talks about Ishvara. Right? So who is Ishvara? Who is the Paramatma? Who is the Supreme? So that information is vividly described in Bhagavad Gita. And Bhagavad Gita also talks about the Kala. Right? Kala or time factor. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying, I am time. So basically, time is something which is going to capture all of us. We saw yesterday about the repeated cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. Who is enacting all that? It is being enacted by Kala, which is nothing but a subservient of the Supreme Lord. Right? And Bhagavad Gita also talks about Prakriti or material nature. So typically the material nature is comprised of 24 elements. What are those 24 elements? Things that you may be aware: earth, water, fire, air, ether. Right? So these are the 5 gross elements. So like that, there are subtle elements as well. So all these are components of Prakriti. Right? So whatever we are seeing in this material world, everything can be categorized as Prakriti. And finally, Bhagavad Gita also talks about karma. What is action? What is improper action? And what is inaction? Right? So Bhagavad Gita gives information on broadly these 5 subject matters. Now in Vedas, if you see, Vedas are going to talk about, so basically Veda is a source of knowledge. It has knowledge of everything. right? So things that you prominently see in this material world, be it things that we take as medicine, be it the military science. So everything is given as the subsects of Vedas, right? So Bhagavad Gita doesn't deal with all those subject matters. It is only talking about these important 5 subject matters, which are very important for a human being to attain perfection in this life, right? So there may be other topics which are mentioned elsewhere in Vedas, but those are not, strictly speaking, needed for a human being to attain perfection, right? So that's why Bhagavad Gita is called the essence. These are the essential subject matters which we need to understand so that we can attain perfection, right? Okay, so Bhagavad Gita, it actually gives the knowledge of absolute truth. So in the last slide, we saw about the Jiva and Ishvara, right? In essence, how we can understand who we are, who the Supreme Lord is, what is the connection or link between me and the Supreme Lord, and how I can attain the Supreme Lord, right? So if you have to understand, study, internalize, and apply the Vedic scriptures, it is going to take a hell lot of time. Nobody has so much of time as a human being. So Bhagavad Gita is the essence through which we will be able to understand the absolute truth, which is so difficult if you are attempting to understand it through study of Vedic scriptures. Why is it so? This is coming out so nicely in this pastime of a person by name Devashyama. I was narrating a pastime of Susharma yesterday, who was a Brahmana, not leading a life of a Brahmana, right? So how he suffered, and then he was given um, by a prostitute certain pious credits which she accrued by hearing the Bhagavad Gita verses. So similarly, today I am going to narrate a pastime of Devashyama, who was an excellent Brahmana, who was seeking after the absolute truth. He studied Vedic scriptures. He underwent a lot of tapasya. He performed so many yogic practices, but still he was not able to understand the absolute truth. So he was seeking after so many spiritual personalities. He inquired from them how I can understand the absolute truth. So many people were giving so many advices, but eventually he was not able to understand the absolute truth properly. So finally, because he was so sincere, he was approached by a yogi. The yogi said, "Oh Brahmana, you can understand the absolute truth easily if you can go and approach a person by name Mitravan." So this person, Mitravan, uh, he was a shepherd. So he was herding after the goats. He was living a life in a village. So this yogi requested him to approach this person, Mitravan. Now the beauty of this Vedic life is, here is a Brahmana. Brahmana is supposed to be a person who is higher in the social order. He is the one who has to give knowledge. But in the Vedic way of life, when somebody is enlightened, when somebody knows the absolute truth, even though he may not be born as a Brahmana, he can become a teacher. Right? So here, this is a vivid example which we can understand. The yogi is requesting the Brahmana to approach a shepherd because the shepherd is having a higher knowledge. Right? So nobody is eliminated because of their birth. Even though somebody may be born in a low family, if he has proper scriptural knowledge, he is considered as a Mahabhagavata. Right? So this Brahmana Devashyama, he goes and approaches Mitravan. So Mitravan he was sitting in a forest amidst a lake, and he was sitting on top of a rock. He was completely peaceful. He was meditating on the Supreme Lord. He was reciting Bhagavad Gita verses. So as soon as Devashyama went and approached him, he was so curious. How come that this Mitravan, who apparently was a shepherd, appears to be such an enlightened person? What transformed him? So this Brahmana went and approached Mitravan and he started inquiring. So then Mitravan said the story behind his enlightenment. Apparently, one day he was herding his goats. As he was traveling through this place, this particular forest, a wild tiger started roaring. It was running towards them. The tiger wanted to hunt all these goats as well as Mitravan. So they were all fleeing in fear. As soon as they approached near this rock, near this river, the tiger, the goat, the person Mitravan, all of them became calm and serene. The tiger did not have the urge to kill the goat. It became so peaceful. So this was a wonderful sight. Mitravan could not understand or comprehend how it was possible that such a wild tiger, it became so calm. So they went and inquired a personality nearby, a rishi, and this rishi narrated that in the previous age, there was a devotee of the Lord who used to come to this place, and he used to recite Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 verses sitting on top of the rock. So before the rishi left this place, he actually inscribed Bhagavad Gita verses on top of the rock. Right? So because of the austerity that the rishi performed on top of the rock, and also because he was reciting Bhagavad Gita verses, the place in itself became such a serene and spiritual place filled with spiritual atmosphere. So much so that even if a tiger or a wild animal goes to that place, it becomes so calm and peaceful. So hearing this statement, Mitravan became so enlightened, and he started sincerely reciting Bhagavad Gita. Ever since day, he was sitting on top of that rock, praying to Lord Sri Krishna, and he was reciting every day verses from the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So that is the power of Bhagavad Gita. When somebody wants spiritual enlightenment, these days, if somebody wants spiritual enlightenment, he goes and approaches a bogus guru, and the bogus guru, what he does, he recites some mantras, and then he does some trick and says that, I am transferring all my spiritual energy from my body to your body. Spiritual knowledge or spiritual enlightenment doesn't happen by transfer of energy by that mean. It happens by sincere study of scripture under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. So that is the secret behind understanding the scriptures. Right? So if you have to learn Bhagavad Gita, you need to be sincere, serious, and approach a proper bona fide edition of Bhagavad Gita. So when you do that, then by the mercy of the Lord, you will be enlightened with the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. And once you receive that knowledge and you start practicing it in your day-to-day life, then nobody can be so peaceful and happy in this material world like you. So this is guaranteed. You may be facing so much of material turbulences, but that doesn't really matter. You will be having that spiritual strength to face those turbulences. So this is what we get from this wonderful story of Devashyama. So that's why this Bhagavad Gita should be received as it is. So when you study Bhagavad Gita as it is, coming down in the disciplic succession in the Guru Parampara. As you can see on the picture on the right side, it comes directly from the Supreme Lord Krishna. So Krishna gave this knowledge to Arjuna in the previous Yuga, in the Dwapara Yuga. But that is not the original Parampara, because Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita says that, oh Arjuna, I had given this knowledge previously as well to the sun god. Imam vivashvate yogam proktavan aham avyayam. So he says, the Supreme Lord says that I gave this knowledge to the sun god, Vivaswan, who in turn gave to Manu, and Manu gave this knowledge to Ikshvaku. So that was the original parampara. Unfortunately, that parampara got broken in between, because of which Krishna had to again spoke Bhagavad Gita. Right? So any knowledge that comes down from the Supreme Lord Krishna himself. So in this case, you can see Krishna is giving this knowledge to Brahma. Brahma is giving this knowledge to Narada Muni. And then there are many other acharyas in the parampara. And in that acharya parampara comes Madhvacharya. So after Madhvacharya, 500 years back, in that parampara comes Madhavendra Puri. So after Madhavendra Puri, it was Ishvara Puri. After Ishvara Puri, it was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the parampara is coming down. And then, as listed here, there is a personality called Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and then our own Srila Prabhupada, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So this is the parampara, chain of disciplic succession, comes down from the Supreme Lord Krishna himself. Right? So anything that comes from the Supreme Lord himself can be accepted. Right? So when you are learning Bhagavad Gita, especially Bhagavad Gita as it is, if you open and study Bhagavad Gita, you will come to know how authentic it is. Prabhupada, in his commentaries, on most of the occasions, he is quoting from the previous acharyas. He is quoting from Ramanujacharya, he is quoting from Madhvacharya, he quotes from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he quotes from Vallavacharya, he quotes from Bilvamangal Thakur, so many other previous acharyas. He is quoting all the commentaries from the previous acharyas, so that the commentary that he has written is very much authentic. When we study Bhagavad Gita as it is given by an authorized spiritual master, then that understanding would be completely perfect. So with that perfection, so we will be able to achieve what Sankaracharya is saying. Right? So this Bhagavad Gita in itself is enough, provided we study it in accordance to what we see here. So with that, we will come to the end of the session today. So I will stop here. Hare Krishna. So I'll take some questions if any of you have any questions. Yes, Sivagami Mataji, you can unmute.
Krishna, Prabhuji, actually, no, first day session, I'm in hospital, so I could not attend. During that time, consultation was going on. So when I asked for the recording, they said we didn't do first day recording. So how to make it up, Prabhuji?
Right. So the first day recording alone was missing. I must apologize for it, because somehow it was not recorded. But in case if you personally want to know what it is, you can always reach out to me. I am available on
Prabhuji.
phone. I will be able to help you out. So you can call me. I will put it in the chat box, my number.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So you can reach out to me
Yes, Prabhuji.
during the daytime. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Today also, no, like due to poor network, I joined at 8:30 only because I'm in hospital. I did get the link.
Oh, okay.
So yes,
No
Prabhuji.
problem.
Thank you.
Today's session is recorded, so I will be uploading
Yeah.
it and sharing it.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else has any questions? Okay, so one question that I would like to ask, right? So before you all attended this session, or if you are exposed to Bhagavad Gita as it is, right? So before that, we all would have learned so many things by so many means, right? So we would have heard from our parents, we would have heard from various other teachers, right? So what are we supposed to do now? So certain informations may be contradictory to what we learned previously. So how are we supposed to be assimilating the information that we receive from Bhagavad Gita? Any thoughts? Yes, Leela Shakti. You can unmute.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, actually, நம்ம இன்னும் சொல்ல போனா ஸ்கூல் டேஸ்ல இருந்தே இந்த மாதிரி இந்த ஆழ்வார்கள் இவங்கெல்லாம் சொல்றத வந்து நம்ம கேட்டுக்கிட்டு இருக்கோம்.
Right.
ஆனா எப்போ டிவோட்டிஸ் வழியா நம்ம கேட்கும் போதும் நம்ம ஆச்சாரியஸ் மூலியமா கேட்கும் போதும் அது மனசுல வந்து அந்த அளவுக்கு ஃபெய்த் பகவான் கொடுத்து இதுதான் உண்மை, இதை நம்ப அப்படின்ற மாதிரி ஒரு ரியலைசேஷன் கொடுக்கறாரு கிருஷ்ணா. பட் அதுக்கும் மீறி நமக்கு நம்பிக்கை வரல அப்படின்னா நம்ம பர்சனலா வந்து ப்ரோபாத் கொடுத்துருக்க அவ்வளோ புக்ஸ்லயும் நம்ம படிச்சாலே எந்த புக் எடுத்தாலுமே அவர் சொன்னதே தான் நமக்கு மனசுல பதியணும்னு சொல்லிட்டு சொன்னதே நிறைய தடவை சொல்லிட்டு இருப்பார் வேற வேற வகையில. பட் அதை படிக்க படிக்கவே கண்டிப்பா நமக்கு வந்து புரிஞ்சிடும் இஸ் அ ட்ரூத். என்னதான் நம்ம அப்பா அம்மா சொல்லி கொடுத்தாலும் இல்ல வேற யாராச்சும் வெளியில இருந்து நான் டிவோட்டி சொன்னாலுமே நமக்கு பகவத்கீதா வழியா டிவோட்டி சொல்றதும் சரி, அது வந்து பகவான் சொல்றது அப்படின்ற ஒரு ரியலைசேஷன் ட்ரூத் நமக்கு அது புரியுது, அது புரிய வருது அது. ஸோ நான் இதை ரியலைஸ் பண்ணேன் பிரபுஜி.
Thank you.
ஹரேஷ், தேங்க்யூ.
So I just translate what Leela Shakti Mataji said for the benefit of others who doesn't understand Tamil. So she said that she got this conviction reading through Srila Prabhupada's books. So she read many of Srila Prabhupada's books, and whatever knowledge that she acquired by other means, so they were not so convincing, because what Srila Prabhupada could give in his books was perfectly convincing. So that is her realization. Anybody else? Because I also see many new devotees, right? So for whom the Bhagavad Gita Mahatmya may be completely new, right? So I would like to hear from them. What is it that they are supposed to be doing? Because we all have some preconceived notion about spiritual knowledge. So, but here we are talking about subject matter from Bhagavad Gita. How are we supposed to assimilate this information? Any other thoughts? Okay, so I will give certain inputs from my side, which would be very helpful, right? So in our spiritual practices, so there is something called unlearning and learning, right? So especially when people who are born and brought up in India, so we all have some amount of scriptural knowledge, right? So though it may not be authentic Vedic knowledge, but we all have certain religious practices and certain level of scriptural knowledges. So since we are now understanding that the essence of all scriptures is Bhagavad Gita, which means that we need to learn and practice Bhagavad Gita. That requires certain amount of unlearning whatever we learned from previous unauthorized sources, right? So that's why when Prabhupada he went and preached Krishna consciousness in the West, the Western devotees, the Western people, they were a clean slate. They did not have any idea whatsoever on these Krishna conscious practices. So they were kind of a clean slate. So Prabhupada's task was much simpler. There was no necessity for them to unlearn and relearn. Whereas in our case, since we have some preconceived notion about the scriptural practices and religious practices, we need to reevaluate our learnings by the means of Bhagavad Gita, by the means of pure devotees of Lord. Through that, we will be able to advance in our spiritual practices. So this is very, very essential. We should be very open-minded, and we should have a strong belief in what is being spoken in Bhagavad Gita, right? So with that understanding, when we approach Bhagavad Gita, it will be helpful to us. I just thought I will just share this little thing because it will be helpful for all of us. Okay, so any final question? If not, I'm going to close this session. Okay, so thank you so much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you all. Thanks for joining. I'm going to end the session.